Hey, Dan Passarelli here. Happy middle of the week. Holy cow, Wednesday's over. We're like 60% done with the week already. I actually had a couple people ask me questions yesterday about yesterday's video where we talked about the red knockouts in PR, Permian Resources, because there were three, and they were asking about the profit targets. And so I wanted to show another one and kind of show how we handle those because I think this is really going to make or break some of these red knockout trades for those of you who trade them. But take a look at this right here. This was in PL, Planet Labs, and this is a very inexpensive stock. This is one where I would not even do options on them because, you know, the markets are tight. I mean, it's a $3 stock. I don't need to do the options and complicate it with theta and all that. I just take a really super simple approach. And we had this red knockout start forming here on the 5th of November. 1, 2, 3 up day green candles. And what we do to set our profit targets is we take the low of the first one and the high of the second one. We call that the green run range. After the high of the red knockout, we expect that range to repeat itself. But what we like to do is be usually a little bit more conservative, and I give it what I call a haircut. This range goes from, well, we start at the high, it's 257 minus 220, so that's like 37 cents. You buy 1,000, 2,000 shares of these. Doesn't cost you that much. You can have a nice little profit, not even worrying about options. So a lot of times, if that's the range, 37 cents, I'll take 90% of that just to make sure that I get out before it even covers that whole range. It's just a way to lock in a higher percentage of winners, which I like winners, right? But, you know, sometimes when you see it playing out where, like, remember, we had the green run, red knockout, the trigger candle, confirmation candle, and we'd be getting in this day probably close to the open. So, you know, probably somewhere around here. I had the haircut set at 90%. So that's 90% of this green run range. And the next day it was just like on fire, just like taking off, right? So we can do one of two things. One is take half of our profits at that 90% haircut. And then, which I like to do. I like to just like lock in a nice little profit and then do more with the rest. So then what I like to do is go in and take that haircut and make it bigger. Like 100% haircut is like a repeat of this whole green run range, but like 90% is 289. If we go in to here and we look at the red knockout, instead of the 90% haircut, I mean, if I see a really moving big on like the 1 minute charts, I might change it to, you know, 1.2. That's 120% haircut. And look at what that does to the profit target. Right now it's 289. I hit OK. I hit apply, and boom, it jumps it up to 3. So then, like on the second half of that, I'm like swinging a little more for the fences, and you know, I mean, there's still a lot of headroom above that. I mean, if I wanted to be even greedier, close 25% at 120 haircut and make the rest something like, you know, 150% haircut, which is not unreasonable, I could do something like that. So that's one of the things that I do with the red knockout. And of course, there's the green knockout, which is just the downward version of that for bearish moves in stocks. That's a really important skill to have, and that's one of the features I really love about using the red knockout. I know many of you use it, but I wanted to make sure you really get how to use that haircut because it can be so powerful when doing it. So I hope that helps. This is Dan Passarelli, Trade Smart.